Welcome to Warriors of the World. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey to explore one of the most iconic figures in the history of battlefields, the Roman centurion. Imagine yourself walking through the bustling streets of a Roman city at the height of the empire. The grand structures around you give a sense of greatness, and the crowds move at their daily pace. But among the common citizens, one figure stands out. He wears gleaming armor, his bronze chestplate reflecting the sun, and his stance is as firm as his gaze. With a short staff in hand, he exudes authority and discipline. He's not just another soldier, he's the centurion, the leader responsible for commanding, and more importantly, shaping, an entire legion of warriors. Centurions were not just officers, they were the backbone of the Roman army. These men carried the responsibility of commanding 100 soldiers, hence the name centurion. But their duties went beyond the battlefield. They had to enforce the strict discipline for which the Roman legions were famous. Get ready to learn their stories, skills, and tactics, and understand what made these leaders both feared and respected by their own people. Together, we'll uncover what it took to command an army that controlled half of the known world. Imagine Rome at the height of its glory, the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. Its borders stretched from the African desert to the forests of Germania, and behind this overwhelming expansion was a flawless military structure. At the heart of this war machine, the centurions stood out as the true leaders and administrators of the legions. Without them and their skills in both combat and management, Rome could hardly have achieved its superpower status. But what made Rome so feared and successful? While many civilizations relied on makeshift armies made up of peasants called to fight only in times of war, Rome did something revolutionary. It created a permanent, highly trained army, ready to fight all year round. And within this army, the centurions were essential. Chosen for their courage and skill, they commanded, like a modern-day sergeant or lieutenant, groups of 100 soldiers, always maintaining order, discipline, morale, logistics, and strategy, ensuring that Rome's military campaigns were executed with precision. Centurions were not armchair strategists. They led by example, always at the front of their troops, ready to fight and die alongside the men they commanded. A centurion's presence in battle was a pillar of confidence for the legionaries. With their firm shields and short swords, gladii, they maintained the lines, organized the formations, and were the cornerstone of Roman military efficiency. It was this combination of fierce discipline and fearless leadership that allowed Rome to conquer vast territories. In Gaul, under Julius Caesar's command, centurions secured victories in desperate battles, such as at the besieged city of Alesia. In every corner of the empire, from Britannia to the distant lands of the east, the success of the Roman legions was directly linked to the skill and bravery of these men. Centurions were undoubtedly the driving force behind Rome's expansion, ensuring that every battle was fought with precision and strength. To achieve this, they underwent exhaustive training, not only to play a decisive role in battle but also to manage the logistics and politics of Rome's conquest machine. Being a centurion was not for everyone. These men needed a unique combination of physical strength, intelligence, unshakable courage, and, above all, leadership that commanded respect and fear. They were not just warriors, they were the symbol of Roman discipline. A centurion led from the front, always in sight of his soldiers, showing that in battle, he was as committed as anyone else. Physically, the centurion was an example of endurance. Trained to march long distances in heavy armor and fight with the short sword, gladius, these men were molded to withstand the worst the battlefield had to offer. But it wasn't just brute strength. A centurion needed a sharp mind, capable of making quick and decisive decisions amid chaos. He was the first to advance and the last to retreat, ensuring that his men maintained formation and high morale, even in the most desperate situations. The centurion's attire also reflected his status. They were easily recognized by their helmets with transverse crests, a visible mark of authority even in the distant ranks. The vitus, a short vine staff, was another symbol of their power, used to maintain discipline among the troops. This staff represented not only authority but also the responsibility to ensure that orders were followed to the letter. Moreover, centurions were skilled administrators. They supervised the logistics of the legions, ensuring that the men were well organized and ready for combat. Their leadership extended beyond the battlefield to the marches and camps, where their presence was a guarantee that everything ran efficiently and with discipline. Centurions were, therefore, the heart of the legion. Without them, the Roman military machine could not have achieved the success history attributes to it. Roman centurions were not just leaders of men, they were masters of tactics and military strategy. On the battlefield, their role was crucial to ensure that the legions moved as a perfect unit, almost like an unstoppable machine. One of the most iconic examples of their tactical leadership was the testudo formation, the famous tortoise formation. With shields raised around and over the soldiers' heads, the testudo created an almost impenetrable barrier against arrows and attacks, allowing the legions to advance slowly and safely. Beyond this famous defensive formation, centurions mastered the use of flanking and encirclement tactics. They knew that in the heat of battle, the advantage lay not only in strength but in position. By surrounding the enemy and attacking from different angles, centurions turned numerical disadvantages into strategic victories. They were responsible for positioning their troops in ways that maximized the impact of each assault. Another essential element was the synchronization of attacks. Centurions gave the orders for the launch of pila, short Roman javelins, at the precise moment, destabilizing enemy formations. This created the necessary opening for the legionaries to advance with their gladii in a swift attack immediately following the rain of javelins. The rigid training enforced by the centurions ensured that this sequence was executed with deadly precision. The centurions' cunning was also seen in their ability to adapt tactics according to the terrain and circumstances. They didn't just follow orders but made quick and intelligent decisions in unpredictable situations, adjusting formations and changing strategy as the battle unfolded. Thanks to these leaders, Roman legions were able to reorganize and win even the most difficult battles. With discipline, precision, and cleverness, Roman centurions ensured that every battle was not just a show of force but one of superior strategy. Roman centurions, besides being relentless warriors, were deeply connected to the spiritual world. For them, war and religion went hand in hand, and Roman gods were seen as decisive forces in the success or failure of a campaign. Before every battle, it was common to perform rituals seeking divine protection and ensuring that the gods were on the side of the legions. The main god revered by the centurions was Mars, the god of war. Mars symbolized the brute strength and courage needed on the battlefield, and his temples were visited before campaigns to ask for strength and victory. It was believed that with Mars' blessing, Roman soldiers would fight more ferociously, and the centurions, who led the troops, carried amulets and symbols dedicated to this god, reinforcing the belief that war was sacred and necessary. Another crucial god for the centurions was Jupiter, the king of the gods. He represented justice and supreme power, and in decisive moments, centurions would make offerings and sacrifices to seek his approval. In many campaigns, the battle would only begin after rituals were performed to check the auguries, signs sent by the gods. By observing the flight of birds or interpreting the entrails of animals, the Romans believed the gods revealed whether the battle would be favorable or not. In addition to the official gods, centurions also followed many personal superstitions. Protective amulets and private rituals were common. Some centurions, before a battle, made vows to a deity, promising to build an altar or make a sacrifice in exchange for surviving or achieving victory. These vows, known as vota, were taken extremely seriously, and failure to fulfill the promise could be seen as an affront to the gods, bringing disastrous consequences. The connection between military power and divine forces was so strong that centurions believed that dying in battle under Mars' protection was a way to achieve eternal glory. These men's lives were a blend of faith and discipline, where the gods guided the sword and protected their legions. Behind the image of relentless leaders, Roman centurions lived lives full of little-known curiosities. One of the most intriguing facts is that they earned much higher salaries than regular soldiers. On average, a centurion earned up to 15 times more than a legionary. This substantial pay, combined with the spoils of war, allowed many centurions to amass great fortunes throughout their careers, something not typically associated with military figures. Beyond the salaries, there was the matter of plunder. In expansion campaigns, conquered cities were sources of wealth, and centurions received a significant share of the spoils. This practice allowed many of these leaders to retire as wealthy men, able to buy vast lands and live as respected members of the Roman elite. But the influence of the centurions didn't stop on the battlefield. After years of service, many became politicians. Thanks to the prestige gained in the army, it was common for ex-centurions to be elected to public office, especially in Roman provinces. There, they used their military experience to maintain order, manage resources, and, of course, ensure that Rome's interests were preserved. In a society where military experience was highly valued, being an ex-centurion was almost a guaranteed pass to a successful political career. Another interesting fact is that centurions also performed administrative roles within the legions. They didn't just lead men in battle, but also supervised soldier payments, supply distribution, and discipline in the camps. In many ways, they were as much managers as they were warriors, and this multifaceted skill set made them indispensable leaders for the success of the legions. There are also stories of legendary centurions, like Lucius Sixtius Dentatus, who fought in over 100 battles and received more decorations than any other Roman soldier. His life of bravery became a legend, and his name still echoes as a symbol of loyalty and courage. Others rose through the ranks not by brute strength, but through acts of extraordinary bravery on the battlefield. These curiosities show that being a centurion was not just about discipline and leadership. It was a career that could transform the life of an ordinary man, making him part of a powerful and, in many cases, incredibly wealthy elite. Becoming a centurion was a journey that required strength, endurance, and unshakable determination. The training of these men wasn't just physical but also mental and emotional, forging warriors capable of enduring the worst horrors of the battlefield and leading their troops with fierce discipline. The process began with a rigorous selection among the most experienced legionaries, and only the best, those who demonstrated natural leadership and courage in battle, were chosen to start the arduous path to becoming centurions. The physical training was brutal. Exhausting marches, often carrying equipment weighing over 30 kilos, were part of the routine. Aspiring centurions had to march long distances, always in perfect formation, without rest, and under harsh conditions. This wasn't just to strengthen their bodies but also to test their ability to maintain discipline even under immense physical and mental pressure. This training made them nearly immune to exhaustion and pain, skills essential for leading a legion into battle. Combat practice was equally intense. Centurions trained with heavy weapons, more difficult to handle than the ones they would use in real combat. The goal was simple: to ensure that, when the time came to fight, their own weapons, like the gladius and the pila, would feel lighter and easier to use, increasing their effectiveness in the heat of battle. Additionally, centurions had to master defensive formations, such as the testudo, and offensive tactics, always leading their troops from the front. However, the mental aspect of the training was just as rigorous. Centurions were taught to make quick decisions, lead under extreme pressure, and keep morale high even in desperate situations. Emotional training prepared them to deal with fear, uncertainty, and the heavy responsibility of command. After all, a centurion needed to be more than just a strong soldier. He needed to inspire confidence, respect, and, when necessary, fear. Lastly, the most important test was maintaining discipline, both in themselves and in others. A centurion who lost control of his men had failed in his mission, and the punishment for such failure could be severe. Being a centurion meant not only bearing the burden of combat, but also ensuring that the legion operated with the precision of a war machine. It was this combination of strength, leadership, and discipline that turned these men into the relentless leaders who made the Roman army an invincible force. Although centurions were relentless figures on the battlefield, their lives weren't limited to war. After years of service, many of these leaders retired with honors and amassed great fortunes, taking advantage of the status they had earned in the legions. Life outside of battle offered these men a fascinating transition from the chaos of combat to the order of Roman society, where they became influential figures both politically and economically. After decades of serving Rome, many centurions used their savings and war rewards to acquire land, one of the most prestigious ways to secure status and wealth in Roman society. Owning land not only provided financial security but also earned them social respect. In villages and cities across the empire, retired centurions were powerful figures, managing farms and businesses and getting involved in local matters, often acting as leaders in their communities. But the centurions' impact didn't stop there. Many, due to their experience and leadership skills, pursued political careers. Their reputation on the battlefield, combined with the respect they earned among soldiers and officers, opened doors in the Senate and Roman provinces. They used their military experience to maintain civil order, manage resources, and lead infrastructure projects like the construction of roads and aqueducts. For others, retirement offered the opportunity to build families and live a peaceful life. Far from forced marches and battles, they could finally devote themselves to their wives and children, living in peace after a life of discipline and risk. Many centurions were seen as examples of morality and discipline in their communities, passing on the values they learned in the legions. Interestingly, the respect and admiration these men earned on the battlefield often followed them into civilian life. In times of local crisis, it was common for communities to call on retired centurions to organize defenses or settle disputes. Their experience and leadership made them indispensable figures, even far from the legions. Moreover, many became local celebrities, their stories of bravery told in taverns and public squares, where they inspired younger generations. Life outside the battles allowed centurions to balance the prestige they had earned with the tranquility they longed for. From the battlefield to fertile lands, these men showed that the spirit of leadership that defined them didn't end when they laid down their swords. Not all centurions ended their careers covered in glory and riches. For many, the path to rising through the ranks was arduous, but the fall could be swift and devastating. Being a centurion meant bearing immense responsibility, and any mistake on the battlefield or a wrong political move could ruin even the most renowned leaders. The position of power they had earned came with the constant risk of falling from grace, sometimes in brutal fashion. In the Roman army, military failure was a serious crime. If a centurion made a tactical mistake that led to the defeat of his legion, the responsibility fell heavily on him. The punishment could range from demotion to a regular soldier to complete expulsion from the army. For a man who had built his life around military discipline, demotion was an almost irreversible blow to his honor. Some centurions who fell from grace were forced to return to the lowest ranks, marching and fighting alongside men they had once commanded, a humiliation that ruined their reputations forever. Political intrigue also posed a constant threat. In ancient Rome, centurions not only dealt with external enemies but also with internal rivals. Sometimes, a centurion's success and popularity attracted the envy of superior officers or powerful senators. A simple rumor of insubordination, treason, or disloyalty to the emperor could end a centurion's career in a matter of days. And unlike the battlefield, where one could fight to reverse the situation, Roman politics was ruthless. A centurion accused of treason faced a swift and severe trial, often ending in banishment or even execution. One dramatic example is that of Cassius Longinus, a centurion who rose to prominence for his bravery in battle but became entangled in a political conspiracy. Accused of treason by enemies within the Senate, he was quickly tried and executed, despite his impeccable military record. His downfall was a grim reminder of how, in ancient Rome, the line between glory and disgrace was extremely thin. There was also the burden of moral pressure. Being a centurion meant leading men and making decisions that could cost lives. The guilt over a defeat or a mistake that resulted in significant casualties could weigh even on the strongest minds. Some centurions, worn down by the constant pressures, abandoned their posts or isolated themselves, unable to bear the weight of their decisions. The rise of a centurion could be glorious, but their fall was always swift, devastating, and, in many cases, inevitable. Rome's expansion campaigns are legendary, and at the center of these conquests were the centurions, leading legions with discipline and courage. They not only commanded their men but also surgically shaped the military success of Rome, ensuring that the empire stretched across vast and inhospitable territories, from scorching deserts to dense forests. Every step Rome took to expand its dominion was accompanied by the firm command of the centurions. In Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, between 58 and 50 BC, centurions played crucial roles. Rome's victory over the Gallic tribes was not just the result of Caesar's cunning, but the centurions' ability to keep their troops disciplined during fierce battles. In the famous Battle of Alesia, for example, where Caesar besieged the Gallic leader Vercingetorix, it was the centurions who ensured that the Roman walls remained intact under the relentless Gallic attacks. Under their leadership, the legions endured the siege and emerged victorious, expanding Rome's territories. In the Britannia campaign, launched in 43 AD, centurions were responsible for conquering and maintaining control over a land full of challenges. The Celtic tribes were fierce and knew the terrain much better than the Roman invaders. However, Roman discipline, rigorously enforced by the centurions, ensured the construction of forts and roads that allowed for the prolonged occupation of the island. The Battle of the River Medway highlighted the centurions' effectiveness, leading their troops through icy waters and facing both well-organized and disunited enemies. But not all campaigns were victorious. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD was a disaster for the Roman legions, where 3 entire legions were massacred by Germanic tribes. Even so, the surviving centurions became examples of bravery, fighting to the last to save their men. The battle, though a bitter defeat, reinforced the importance of centurions in maintaining morale and order, even in the face of terrible adversity. Centurions also played a vital role in the Eastern campaigns, where Rome faced enemies like the Parthians, masters of cavalry and archery. Even against the Parthians' mobile and clever fighting style, centurions managed to organize their legions into defensive formations, shielding them from devastating enemy arrows and, when possible, launching precise counterattacks. These campaigns would not have been possible without the constant and effective presence of centurions. Through their firm command, Rome not only conquered territories but kept them under control, spreading the empire's influence across thousands of kilometers. They were the backbone that kept the Roman legion standing, leading victories that would echo through eternity. Even centuries after the fall of the Roman Empire, centurions continue to fascinate the modern world. Their iconic image, with the transverse crested helmet and sword in hand, is a powerful representation of discipline, leadership, and bravery. It's no wonder these historical figures have been immortalized in popular culture, appearing in films, books, games, and series, where they continue to inspire generations. In cinema, one of the most memorable depictions of centurions appears in Gladiator, 2000, directed by Ridley Scott. Although the character of Maximus is not technically a centurion, the film accurately portrays Roman military discipline and the authority of the officers who led the legions. The figure of the centurion is always present, maintaining order and commanding respect, reinforcing the central role of these leaders in the Roman military machine. The film captures the essence of what made these men feared and revered. Another example is the series Rome, 2005 to 2007, by HBO, which offers a more detailed view of Roman life and the importance of centurions both on and off the battlefield. The series shows the daily lives of these leaders, depicting both their military responsibilities and the personal dilemmas they faced. It highlights how centurions were not only warriors but also men of influence in Roman politics and social life, connecting audiences with the human side of these leaders. In video games, the Total War Rome series puts players in control of Roman legions, where centurions play a crucial role. The game captures the complexity of battles and the importance of commanding troops efficiently, just as centurions did. Players can experience the pressure of leading armies in vast expansion campaigns, getting a taste of what these historical leaders lived through daily. In books, the work, The Eagle of the Ninth, by Rosemary Sutcliffe, highlights the myth of a Roman legion that disappeared in the harsh lands of Britannia. The quest to recover the lost legion's eagle reflects the symbolic importance of centurions and how Rome's prestige was tied to these leaders. The book was adapted into the movie The Eagle, 2011, once again bringing the role of centurions in building the Roman myth to the forefront. Even in the world of animation, such as Asterix and Obelix, centurions appear in a caricatured form, but always depicted as figures of authority. Even in a comedic setting, they are seen as those who maintain order within the Roman army, reminding us that these were still powerful figures in Roman society. Popular culture continues to revive centurions as symbols of discipline, leadership, and courage. In all these representations, what stands out is the power these figures have to inspire respect, fear, and, above all, a lasting legacy. Whether in epic films, immersive video games, or captivating books, centurions remain alive in the collective imagination, reminding us of the enduring influence history has on shaping our modern culture. And so, we come to the end of this epic journey into the world of Roman centurions. Now, after exploring their stories, battles, and legacies, it's clear that these men were much more than simple military leaders. They were the beating heart of the Roman Empire, bearing the responsibility of keeping a flawless war machine running while facing pressures few could endure. They were warriors, strategists, figures of power, and, for many, true heroes. But they were also human, full of ambitions, flaws, and challenges, both on and off the battlefield. Now, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what drove men like these to endure so much? To walk always at the front of their soldiers, knowing they could be the first to fall? Perhaps the answer lies in something deeper. Perhaps it wasn't just honor or duty to Rome, but a constant quest to leave a mark on the world, to become part of something bigger. And is that quest so different from ours? We all want to be remembered. We all seek some kind of glory, whether on the battlefields of antiquity or in the daily challenges of modern life. Were they killing and managing machines driven by greed and ambition, or was it once again a cultural and social matter, where each man simply played his role in his community and toward himself using the means he had at hand? What becomes clear is that, like the Centurions, each of us has a fundamental role to play. We're not in the Roman legions, but in our own way, we are leaders of our own stories, commanders of our own lives, and administrators of our own paths and resources. Perhaps, by knowing the journey of these great men, we can find inspiration to face our own challenges, maintaining discipline, courage, and, above all, the will to grow and leave our legacy. And now that you know so much about Centurions, their triumphs and falls, their beliefs and influence, why not take this journey even further? Subscribe to the channel to continue discovering the stories of legendary warriors from all eras. Here at Warriors of the World, leave your mark in the comments and get ready for the next battle. New heroes and countless stories waiting to be told. See you in the next video. Until then.